Welcome everyone, it is John, and I am back with another adventure, and yes, that is the Carpetbagger. And we're at Portal 31. It's an old abandoned mine that was started in the 1920s, and they've turned it into a dark ride. And he's been here, I have not. I've been wanting to come here for a while, and I'm excited about this, so follow us. All right, guys. We get to see what life was like in the coal mines. All right.
Mine safety and just knowing how to impulsive, improvising, patient, and community.
A lot of times back in the old days when the husband would pass away, sometimes it's up to the oldest son to take his place in the mines. So it's very common for 8 to 10-year-old kids actually working in the coal mines. You imagine. There's the old Miners Hotel. I come from a family of coal miners.
Coal mining management.
As we get a little deeper in this mine shaft here, but a very noisy light.
Look at that. Worse sound effect.
Look at that seam of coal. See, they would leave pillars of coal like this in the mine. It'd be basically a huge grid.
Yeah.
And when they would be done, they would slowly mine those pillars of coal out and let the mine collapse to seal it in. Yeah. That's actually an old mining scoop he's driving there. Hey, Jacob. You excited about going into an old abandoned mine from the 20s?
Yes.
Nervous?
No, they got this handled.
Oh yeah, it's safe-ish.
And the surrounding town of Lynch was built by a company called U.S. Steel. At the time, U.S. Steel was one of the biggest corporations in the world, and they needed coal to fuel their steel plants in places like Pittsburgh, Birmingham, and Gary. They had discovered that the coal here in this part of Kentucky was some of the best for steel making, so they built this town and opened this mine. By the time Portal 31 was closed in 1963, millions of tons of coal had been hauled out through the tunnel we're sitting in right now. Okay, everybody ready? Arms and legs inside. Safety first. Remember, it's the miner's motto. Visit some of the miners and see how coal mining has changed over the years. Our first stop, 1919. We're going to pay a little visit to one of the miners. His name is Joseph Marcelli, and he immigrated here with a lot of other miners from Italy and over 32 other countries. They came here looking for a better life.
Okay, Nelly, let's take a little break. Coming to America, it was a good thing I did. Even so, it was hard. So many, Mama, Papa, Giuseppe, Amelia, they are still in Sicily. I'm afraid I will never see them again. But my darling Maria and the Bambinos, they won't have to live the way we did there. Back home, we work all day in the fields, in the hot sun. The bosses, the gabellotti, stood over us with guns, and each harvest they cheated us out of the grain we grew. And when the wheat prices went down, we starved. They treated us like animals. Worse than animals. But here, in America, it's good. So what if I have to buy my own tools and cutlight? The work, she's steady. The mind, she is cool and safe. You see to that, don't you, Cantante? As long as I can hear your song and know I'm safe.
Hey, Joseph, did your lights go out too?
Not to worry, my young friend. You see, they're back now already.
Sure enough, and I'll be glad when that permanent light plant's up and running.
Oh yes, light is good. Lynch will be the first mine with electric all the time.
What do you say we have lunch together, Joseph? I'll come out to you, okay?
See, maybe there will be some lasagna from Maria for you. Once you have tasted Italian cooking, you will dream of nothing else. Life is good. Me, Joseph Marzelli, and mia famiglia. We have a house with electric lights. My bambinos, Tony and Mario, their stomachs are full. They won't have to do what I did. To leave home at 12 so the others could have enough to eat.
Fire in the hole!
See, life is bellissimo. As long as I am careful and shore up the roof so it doesn't cave in.
Fire in the hole!
And watch my blasts so all goes well. I hope to work here a long time and maybe save enough money to bring over my brothers and sisters.
Fire in the hole!
Easy, calmare. It's all right. Aren't you used to that noise yet?
All right, guys, y'all still doing good?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Y'all ready to continue, right?
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go.
As we move on, so does time. At our next stop, 10 years have passed. The year, 1929. The mining here at Port 31 keeps going deeper and deeper into Black Mountain, and more coal keeps pouring out. We're changing how the mining is being done, too. By 1929, it isn't just picks and shovels anymore. Now, there are undercutters to cut into the coal seam. It's a process called conventional mining, and it's got 4 steps. But let's let Joseph explain them to you. Today, he's training a couple of new workers, and one of them just happens to be his own son, Tony.
Hey, Pop. Hey, Pop. Joseph, is that you?
Si, Antonio, it's me. Who is that with you?
This is Henry Birch. He's from Birmingham.
Hello, Henry, welcome. Is this your first time in the mine?
Yes, sir. And this one is a nice one. When my family moved here from Alabama, my daddy said he worked in the mine so long, he had to pack his lunch in a tackle box so he could use the side drawers to hold his sandwiches. Yeah, yeah. I bet he and the guy rats got real friendly. Tony here tells me that you're going to show us the ropes.
This is true. Soon you will know this mine like the street you live on. Now, let me show you the 4 basic steps. And Tony, what is the first one?
Sound on the roof. You treat it with respect. Always. Especially when you get to a new spot. Did you hear that tapping sound as we were coming down here? That was me sounding the roof. I was showing Henry here how to do it.
How did you show him?
Like this. And how you use your free hand to feel for any vibrations. And if you feel a vibration, or if you hear a hollow sound, then you've got a roof that might give on you. And you've got to brace that up before you do anything else.
Yeah. I tried it a few times to try to get the hang of it. It seems like a mighty important skill to have.
Oh, you bet. The roof, she is important. You should have seen poor Malloy last week when they carried him out. He had gone into an empty tunnel to eat his lunch, and the roof fell in on him and broke his collarbone. Now, his 6 kids, they'll be hungry for a while. You boys must always remember, respect the mine.
So, when the roof is good, sound, then what?
Then, you make an undercut with the cutting machine.
And after you make the undercut, you come along and drill several holes with the drill like Papa's been doing.
Then you put in the charge?
That's right. And make sure you got plenty of cord. And step back plenty far away.
And let her rip.
That's right.
Fire in the hole!
And after that, it's just a matter of putting the coal into the cars.
And you must always remember to fill them full. O'Toole's Hump.
O'Toole's Hump. O'Toole was the first mine superintendent here, and he didn't consider a car full until not another piece would sit on top. And that's why they call it O'Toole's Hump.
So, were you part of that group that made the world record in 23?
We mined more coal here in one day than anyone had ever mined anywhere else in the world.
There were over 1,500 people on payroll that day, and they mined 7,089 tons of coal. That's 4.8 tons per person. And they said that the train that carried all that away was over 1.5 miles long.
Oh yes, here at Porto 31, we know how to mine the coal. You too will become good miners.
A lot of miners like Tony and Henry came and went through this mine. Times got pretty tough in the 30s. It was the Great Depression. It was the worst in 1932, when we might only work 2 days in 2 weeks. But U.S. Steel gave us credit at the company store, the United Supply Company, and we all grew gardens. I think I heard there were 900 of them. So we survived, and finally the mining picked up. The 30s were hard in other ways too. At the time, there was a lot of union organizing going on down here. But U.S. Steel wanted to keep the union out of Lynch. If you tried to join, they'd likely throw you out of town. But the organizers kept coming right back. We finally organized with the United Mine Workers in 37 and had our first strike in 39. Our next stop is 1943. Lots of things have changed. For one thing, the country's at war, and everyone is pitching in to help the war effort. You can hear the change. It's much noisier. The equipment is bigger, and there's a lot more of it. Underground telephones, roof bolters, coal haulers, and the latest mining innovation, the conveyor belt. Also, miners don't work alone anymore. Even old-timers like Joseph now work in crews. And several crews now work for a foreman. But safety's still our #1 concern. That's what you're going to see first. Men measuring the airflow and roof bolting, part of the safety precautions that are now an everyday part of mining. You'll see what I mean.
There, Ben. Hold it there. Okay. I got my side braced. You get yours.
Got it. Now let's test it. Hiram, how's the airflow?
Oh, let me see. Looks good. I think that did. That should be the last one we need in this section. This apparatus and the new fan should bring in enough air for the new top.
Man, this mine's getting big. Hope we can get the air back far enough.
We can do it. We always have before.
Yeah, this mine just keeps growing. It opened because they needed coal to make steel from the First World War. Now they've got us working 7 days a week to get enough fuel for this World War. You ever think about that?
I'm mostly just thinking about putting my pillow under my head.
You done over there, Ben?
Can you help me with Sergi here? I'm trying to talk some sense into him. The knucklehead won't admit that joining the union has been a good thing. Ever since we signed with the United Mine Workers in 37, we've had better, safer working conditions, not to mention better pay.
Yeah, when you are working. We had 6 strikes this year. I don't call being out of work. On strike wages, good pay.
But now we got a chance of moving up. Before the union, there was no way management was going to let a colored man do anything but junk work. But with the union, I've got a chance. If I can do the job, I can make a better wage.
Hey, he's got a point, sir. The union lets us have a say in how things run. And with this war going on, we all need to pitch in. Do what we can. Did you hear the latest numbers? Corps of 31 is down about 1,000 men since last year.
Don't we know it? That's less than 3,000 of us now. And more are leaving to join every day. You know Billy Mozellus, Joseph's grandson. The minute he got out of high school, he signed up. He's on his way to the Pacific right now.
You know, I thought about it myself, but I'm 38, just too old.
Not too old, man. The reason they won't let you join is because you've been a miner so long. They need you here in the mines. Somebody's got to provide the fuel for the factories so we can win this war. That's our job.
Got it. That one will hold for sure. It felt pretty solid.
Hey, those steel bolts will last forever.
Yeah, this is a lot better than the old post and beam method. Can you remember how hard it was to set those posts by yourself?
Oh man, what a backbreaker. But with these roof bolts, unless there's a mountain bump, they'll hold a lot of weight.
And we will have a lot fewer roof falls.
So, Serge, you think we can set 3 more before lunch?
I'm game if you are.
Roof falls have always been a major cause of death and injury. These new roof bolts are steel. They work like the toggle bolts you might use around the house. You drill them in, and as you pull the drill out, they'll spread out and hold the roof. They make the job a whole lot safer.
See you tonight at the game?
I'll be there. I want to see that new picture they got from Gary. I hear he's something.
Boy, do we need it. It's about time somebody showed up with a good arm. Middleton beat us 3 games running.
You better believe we're going to break that streak.
You got that right. You know these 9-hour shifts are great. Now we've got time to do stuff. I go to baseball games.
Unless you're also stuck in the night shift.
But we won't have double shifts forever, not once the war's over.
Yeah, thanks to the union. The company never would have done it on its own. Shorter days, hospitalization. The good old UMW, they sure made it happen.
So, Clay, how do you like these new cyclical bills? They sure beat hand loaded.
You can say that again. They're slicker than greased lightning. They really get the job done fast.
They make it kind of like a factory, don't they? Just moving the coal along. All we gotta do is load it up.
And keep her fed. Hey, you folks have got to back up. We've got to get these cars out of here. Don't you know there's a schedule to keep? We've got to help win this war.
We was out on strike last year?
No, but I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
64 days I could have been making money. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay here. I think I just might join my brother and his family up in Detroit. The work's steadier there.
They have unions up there too.
But there's a war on. Do you really think we should be stopping work to go on strike?
Good point. By the way, I heard your little brother was thinking about enlisting.
Bobby? He's been talking about it a bunch. He's thinking about trying to qualify for sharpshooter. He'd be good at it too, all the squirrel hunting he's done.
Fact was, lots of miners weren't allowed to enlist during World War II. Mining was a protected industry. That meant you were exempt from the draft when your skills were needed for the war effort at home. And after November of '43, unions weren't allowed to strike. But the Ickes-Lewis Agreement gave miners some benefits, like a 9-hour portal-to-portal day, and it required the company, not the miner, to pay for tools, blacksmithing, lights, and other fringe benefits. But remember, the agreement also stated that because of the war, no strikes were allowed. It remained in effect until August 1945. As the years pass, the equipment is getting bigger, and Portal 31 is becoming more factory-like. Everything is run by schedules, and every man has a special job. Brakeman, mechanic, roof bolter, everybody working as a team. No more hand loading. Everything is becoming mechanized. Our next stop is 1960. 3 years before Portal 31 will be shut down forever. And there's a machine that's making big changes in how mining is done. It's a continuous miner. One machine that does the work that an entire crew did before. As with all equipment, especially heavy-duty industrial machines, maintenance is critical. And that's what's happening here. 2 men changing the cutting bits on a continuous miner.
I think that's got it. I sure hope Brady learns how to stay on the top. He hits so much rock, he's wearing down these bits something fierce.
You'd think he would have learned that by now.
Oh well, old dogs and new tricks. Oh boy, Jim, I'm beat. Am I ever glad this shift's almost over? By the way, I heard somebody at lunch say that maybe we're done with continuous miner in this section.
That's right, Billy. This section's pretty well mined out, so we're going to move it to number 3 heading tomorrow.
You know, my daddy and granddaddy first mined these sections, and now we're pulling the pillars out. I'm a 3rd generation coal miner, and altogether we've seen lots of changes here. My grandpa Joseph mined by hand with a pony team. My dad and his brother mainly worked conventional mining. But by the time I started, it was machines like this one that did most of the work. And it seems like they just keep getting bigger and better.
And it's our job to keep them running. There's been other changes too.
Yeah, like the pay. In 1918, when Grandpa Joseph started here, he got paid less than 50 cents for each ton that he mined. By the time he died in 47, miners were being paid hourly. I think it was about $1.60 per hour.
Joseph died of black lung, didn't he?
You know, he worked in the coal mines for 30 years. Most of that time, they didn't know what breathing coal dust could do to you.
Yeah, a lot of miners got black lung, and we owe a lot to those guys.
You bet we do. Oh well, our shift's over. The crew in the next tunnel will be up and running any minute now. Time to get going.
As a matter of fact, that sound you hear now is the continuous miner at work in the next tunnel. It's pretty noisy, so be ready. But don't worry, we'll be safe.
You guys see okay right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You be watching that screen on the...
This isn't the end of our story, but rather the beginning. The mountain itself has a story to tell. A very old story. One that takes us back to a time before the mountains were here. Back to the very beginnings of our planet. Then there were no continents, no oceans. The young planet was a sea of molten rock, intense heat, and violent upheaval. But as it began to cool, it also began to rain, and much of the Earth's surface was covered by shallow seas. Life, as we know it, began. Slowly, over millions of years, vast swamps grew out of the seas, and then giant forests of mosses and ferns, all competing for life. Plants and animals lived and died, sinking to the bottom of the swamps. They carried with them stored energy from sunlight, now held captive in this decaying matter, buried in mud and sand, layer upon layer, year after year, for millions of years. But the Earth was still young. Land masses were still forming, ever changing. The sand and mud moved and shifted, and as more layers were added, their immense weight created enormous pressure on the underlying deposits, which over time formed various types of rock, as well as other formations, some energy-rich in composition, huge pockets of natural gas, vast deposits of oil, and countless seams of coal. This mountain, Black Mountain, is part of the Appalachian Mountain Range, one of the oldest in the world. These mountains were formed as the ever-shifting continental shelves of what are now known as Europe and Africa collided with North America. The unimaginable pressure created along fault lines caused land masses to shift up and slide, one over the other, and as a result, mountain ranges were born. Black Mountain was born, reaching for the sky. So what was once beneath the swamplands now surrounds us. The tunnel we are now in once held a rich seam of high-grade coal. Time passed, millions upon millions of years. The Earth continued to evolve. Millions of species of plants and animals evolved as well. And man, with the abilities of reasoning and conscious thought, would begin to relate to the world around him. For thousands of years, mankind would use what was on the Earth for food, shelter, and fuel. But with the birth of the industrial age came the need for new sources of energy. A need that would inevitably lead us to search under the ground, to places where vast energy resources have been stored through the millennia. The search for coal would eventually lead here, to this place in the Cumberland Valley, to Black Mountain, the source of a multitude of high-grade coal veins reaching from here to West Virginia. A search for the vast human resources needed to mine the coal would begin as well. adventurous men who would be a match for the mountain, who possessed the courage and physical toughness required to explore the ancient depths of Black Mountain in the search for coal. Beginning in 1917, this area would become home to thousands of miners and their families. The first to come were native to the region, men who were already familiar with the challenges of life in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Of these, many were also veterans of the First World War. Soon, thousands more would emigrate to Black Mountain from 37 countries, from continents around the world. Those same continents that were formed when the earth was young, when the Appalachians first rose to the sky. They built a town and created a community. And for much of the 20th century, they lived their lives and worked here on this mountain. A mountain that would yield over 80 million tons of coal by the middle of the century. For some miners, Portal 31 was the portal to a new country and a new way of life. For others, it was the portal to prosperity, raising their children and grandchildren, some becoming miners themselves, some seeking other opportunities in the Cumberland area and in the cities beyond. A legacy of pride and perseverance that was earned through generations of hard work and mental.
Enjoyed it. I know I'll never get tired of traveling through this mine. The last coal was mined here in 1963. After that, mining was done at Portal 32, higher up on Black Mountain. Altogether, from 1917 to 1963, over 120 million tons of coal were mined in Portal 31. About the time they closed Portal 31, U.S. Steel sold the houses to the miners. Many were able to buy their homes for less than $1,000. By 1963, Lynch had its first elected city council, so it was no longer a company town, but an incorporated city with over 1,000 residents. Today, most of the mineral rights and the 19,000 acres of land that were owned by U.S. Steel are owned by the ACIN Corporation, LLC. Mining still goes on in the region, but there's less room and pillar mining like you've seen here in Portal 31. Technology has progressed so that most of today's coal mining is done by longwall mining, strip mining, and mountaintop mining. You know, in the 46 years that this mine was open, it played a pretty big part in helping create the industrial might of America in the 20th century. It helped to win 2 world wars. The tipple here was once the largest in the world, and in 1923, the miners set a world's record for coal tonnage mined in one day. A lot of strong, brave, and hard-working men spent the better part of their lives in this mine. And it's been nice to have had the opportunity to share a part of their story with you today. The Kentucky Coal Museum and Mine Tour is a tribute to their efforts. And now let's just sit back and enjoy the ride back to the portal. You know, sometimes when I listen real close, I feel like I can hear the mine speaking to me. Or maybe it's just a whisper of the thousands and thousands of stories that the miners shared with each other as they made their way into and out of the mine. Can you hear it too?
And they would bring the coal out onto the conveyor belt. And if you look, you'll see it continues on and upward into the mine tipple right there. And that's where they would wash it, separate the slate and all that stuff. And they'd get processed to be hauled off. Here's a scoop. They'd use these to haul coal out. There you have it, Portal 31. Really awesome, really unique experience. I highly suggest you get your butt down here and check that out. If you're interested in coal history and you want to actually tour a real abandoned mine. Well, it's not so much abandoned. It's non-functioning.
Non-functioning mine.
That's a good way to put it. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. If you want to help support this channel, I do sell t-shirts like this, but not anymore, but there's other t-shirts. And I have a Patreon. I have a Patreon where I send you cool stuff. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy.